well, you know, everybody, I've got 4 of you. So hello, Doug, Wavy, Shadow. Who else do I have? Yeah. Oh, I'm counted. Why am I counted? Oh, Doug, because you said I had to drink while I did this, I found this wonderful shot glass, you know, just for you. So there you go. Doug, just so you know, this is a Coke and some Jim Beam from my Drop Bear shot glass, just for you. So as we go, just know that I am drinking that as we get started. So I started with some of my ingredient prep already because, fun fact about your Aunt Fuckhead, I can't chop an onion without throwing it all over the kitchen first. So I figured I would save everybody the embarrassment of, you know, watching me just like randomly. I don't even know how it happens. I'm just like sitting there chopping, and then I'm like, oh, look, there's half an onion on the floor. So I chopped all the onions. Onions also make me cry. So then I would have had to sit here with my sunglasses on, you know, in the middle of the day with the lights on, like a lame ass. So I did some work ahead of time. So we are making tomato soup and grilled cheese today. The grilled cheese is going to be fantastic and was requested. It was actually my first request, so I am honoring it. And the tomato soup is what my girlfriend begged me to make, and I'm whipped. So Indy gets what Indy wants. So we'll be doing that today. I'm just waiting for the oil to finish heating up so that I can start with the onions, which is going to probably be the loudest part of this cooking adventure today. So I do apologize, because it's going to be a little sizzly, but then it should quiet down after we're done with that. So feel free to, you know, chat me, ping me like 80 times if I'm not paying any attention to you. I will let it sizzle. It will be very sizzly for like 5 minutes. You guys can still see, right? So this is my lovely pot. It's blue, in case anybody cared, because girls have to have pretty things in their kitchen in order to feel nice about themselves. So the oil's very hot. Pro tip from me to you: when it yells at you, that's how you know that it's very hot. It was actually a lot hotter than I thought it was, so we're all learning something. If you were my mom, you would like sprinkle water on it to see if it will sizzle. But I hate it when the oil sparks because it's hot. It flings oil everywhere, like it just did when I put the onions in. So first step of like half of, I think it might just be the kinds of recipes that I go for, but the first step of like almost all of them is to chop an onion and then like cook it in some oil. So we've done that. This is like a whole onion, and I put it in a food processor and I pulverized it because Seldair does not really like onion chunks. So it's as squished as it's possible for it to be, because I said so. Because, like I said, we're making this mostly because Indy said she wanted the soup with the nudes. This is what she calls it. And honestly, we're just waiting for the onions to get like super brown. We are making, Sammy wants to know what we're making. We're making grilled cheese and tomato soup because grilled cheese was the first request that I got, and my girlfriend wants tomato soup. So, and Sammy, you didn't miss very much. All I've done is cause an oil explosion by adding onions to very hot oil, and I'm waiting for them to turn brown. Yes, my smoke alarms are working, Doug. I mean, I assume that they're working. I have never set them off. That's just steam. It looks alarming on the video now that I'm like watching it, but it's just steam. Warm. Oh, hi, Sally. I'm going to stir the pot so many times for you. Fun fact, Aunt Fuckhead is a compulsive stirrer. I have to stir it because it makes me feel like I'm doing something, even though I'm doing literally nothing, and actually probably making it take longer because I'm letting all the heat out and I'm trying to make the onions turn brown, which they're only going to do if they get hot. So the fun part about cooking is that most of the time you're just standing there waiting for something to happen. So it seems like it's really, really complicated, but it's just this series of instructions that don't have to be followed exactly. And then sitting and waiting. In case anybody is wondering about how I know what I'm doing right this second, I have this handy dandy Post-it note where I wrote all of my instructions. My favorite instruction is, of course, the one that just says nudes. Maybe the next time somebody asks me to send them nudes, I will just send them a picture of noodles. Oh, it's making good noises, guys. It's like thinking really hard about it. So she got me, around Valentine's Day, she got me like a bag of Dove chocolates with caramel in the middle. And I kid you not, guys, I put them on my coffee table and I would eat one every single time I died while I was gaming. And I realized that I die a lot. Well, that's not really news, but I die a lot. Like a lot. And I was just like, in that 5 seconds that it takes to be able to spawn back in, I was just like helping myself to a chocolate or two, however long I had. And it's not a good situation. But she hasn't bought more. I've almost eaten all of them. And I'm hoping that they don't show up again, at least until February. So that is what it looks like. As you can see, the onions are brown-ish, which means that it is time to add the garlic. So I'm the kind of person who likes to prepare everything in advance and like measure everything out, because I get all stressed out when I have to do it while I'm waiting for something to brown and do all that stuff. So I've got pretty much everything already done. And then I just toss it in the fridge, and in a perfect world, like in a cooking show world, somebody else would do my dishes for me. But that's not how that works. Here, I do all my own dishes. So I just toss them in the sink, and then I'm like, oh, somebody will do those later, and then I have to do those. So the garlic, you always cook garlic until you can smell it, which is a really, really precise measurement. It's something like a minute. But cooking is not a precise science. So far we have onions, garlic. I just added tomatoes. I'm going to add some chicken stock. And I don't have a 4-cup measure, so that was 2 cups. And this is the other 2 cups. That was the end of the box, so that's going over there. More stuff in the sink. Okay, so this has kind of started to boil. So we're turning the heat down, and it's going to go for like 15 minutes, which, because I said that out loud, I'm going to actually remember to set a timer. Otherwise, usually what happens is about 20 minutes from now, I go, hey, was I supposed to set a timer? And then I'm like, I guess it's been the correct amount of time. So that's going to go for 15 minutes. And in the meantime, we are going to start with the nudes. What is on the stove at the moment is almost all of our tomato soup ingredients. So I started with oil, onions, browned the onions, then added garlic, then chicken stock, and tomatoes. And so now what is on the stove looks like that. It seems like it's pretty happy doing the bubbly thing, and that'll go for 15 minutes. And this soup is actually done. So I'm going to put a lid on it, and I'm going to move it to literally to the back burner with the heat off, and it'll still be hot by the time we need it for something. I'm still waiting for water to boil for the nudes. And then once that's going, which is taking forever, then we'll get started on the grilled cheese. Okay, so water is boiling. I like to use orzo for my nudes, which is like a little rice-looking thing, but that's really hard to find. So instead, I'm using these little guys. I don't remember what they're called. What they're called, but I'll pull the box out in a second. So nudes. And for those of you who were not here at the beginning of the stream, basically my master way of cooking like a professional is to drink this really classy drink while I do it, and just pile all the dishes in the sink for somebody else to do. And usually that somebody else is me. Usually I would use a different wooden spoon for my nudes, but since these are all going in the same dish, I'm just going to do this instead. because, like I said, I usually just pile the dishes in the sink and let somebody else do them. Apparently, this is the name of the exact nudes that I am using. I have never heard of this pasta before. I just picked it because it looks tiny. And you don't want anything like super, super chunky in there. Like I wouldn't use like spaghetti or Alfredo or like anything like actually substantial. So this is what we're going with. Actually, I should probably have looked at this box. Oh, 10 minutes. Rip. Oh, I should probably set a timer. It's a good thing that you guys are here, honestly, because Saldair and the timer were not friends. So it's probably been like 3 minutes since I put the noodles in, and I'm just now going, oh, maybe I should set a timer for 10 minutes. So it's about what my whole life is like. With baking, that would matter. With cooking, it doesn't really. So that is my secret weapon. I just never bake anything. I'm just trying to make everything really sizzly, guys. Okay, so while I have 8 minutes left on my timer, I'm going to start with some grilled cheese. So, for anybody who's never seen this before, this is a fun little thing called a butter belt. It's supposed to go the other way around, and you're supposed to just like cram the butter in, like in the top end, and put a little bit of water. Where's the fill line thing? Like in the bottom, and it creates this seal. And then you can keep your butter on the counter all the time because we don't really have the weather here that lets us keep it out without it going bad in like 3 seconds. But I can't really figure out how to get it to work. So I just use it like this, and it holds my butter, and it matches my Dutch oven and makes me look like a professional, which is what I'm going for in everyday life. So there's a fun fact. So at some point in the Discord, I said that grilled cheese is an art form, which is very true. So first things first, always use shredded cheese. I'm using cheese in a package because I'm lazy. What it is I don't want to have to clean the cheese grater. I would have to like toss it in the sink first and then go, cool, somebody will do that later, and then it would be me. But I don't want to have to do it. So I just use bag cheese, but it's a good quality bag cheese, and I would be using Tillamook block and shredding it myself if I wasn't using it out of the bag. So there's that. So what I do with my grilled cheese, because like I said, it's an art form, is I melt the butter, moving this cutting board over here. I melt the butter, and then I take the bread. Instead of trying to scrape like cold butter onto your grilled cheese and then put the whole sandwich down, I put one piece of bread in melted butter and then toss it back on the cutting board. Then I melt more butter, and when that's melted, I make a sandwich. So the top piece of bread will be buttered, and then I'll melt this a little bit more, put the bottom piece down, put cheese on, and then the top piece. And then you have all the butter that you need. It's already melted. It's already gooey. And it kind of has like a chance to soak into the bread a little bit instead of kind of going from cold. And you can never get all the corners either with butter, especially if you are the kind of person who keeps your butter in the fridge, which I do. I just took this out before the stream started because I knew I was going to be using it. So that it would be a little bit softer and take less time. Usually what happens is the butter is so cold it does like a little dance when I put it in the pan. So I just like wait for it to all melt, and then I like smear the bread around, then I add my cheese. I always use grated cheese, whether it's from a bag or whether I'm grating it myself, because it takes less time for it to melt. And then that way you don't end up with an overdone sandwich. Like where the bread is really, really toasted and the cheese hasn't melted all the way through. I'm sure that's probably happened to like just about everybody here. And it's the worst thing in the entire world. The other thing is that if you use grated cheese, then whatever falls out of your sandwich onto the pan, you can grab it with your spatula, and when it's like all like melted and kind of fried, and snack on it, and it's the best thing in the world. So all of the pluses go to grated cheese and none of the minuses. Basically, there's no minus. Except for, I guess, having to wash the cheese grater or having to pay the slight extra charge for the convenience of using the bagged cheese. So that's probably it. And I am all caught up. So there, I'll give you a full view of the grilled cheese, which is an art form. So the noodles are done. Anytime you make noodles, you should toss water on the burners a lot. It's the sign of a true professional or somebody who doesn't know how to stir things. I'll let you guys decide which it is today. I'm going to go with true professional. Fun fact, I can't like just spatula sandwiches. So I always have to like lift the corner with a knife so that I can scoop without it sliding. And just like check the bottom to make sure that it's not getting too toasty. Sometimes what I will do is I'll put a lid on it. This skillet did not come with a lid. It just so happens that the soup lid is the same size as the skillet, so I use that like a real grown-up. I am full of like college and dormitory hacks as well, so you could use a slightly bigger pot as your lid if you wanted to, or if you're cooking something that's small, like if you're trying to fry an egg, I'll use a small pot lid, and it doesn't cover the whole pot, but it'll cover just the egg, and I don't care about that. I've used a beer bottle as a rolling pin before, So, you know, really the possibilities are endless. You just have to be creative enough. So that's not all the way done on the top, but I'm going to flip it over a little bit early. The benefit to doing it before it's ready is that I've spilled more cheese out the side of it because the cheese wasn't all the way melted. And so now that the cheese has spilled, I get more snacks because I'm also making myself hungry. I guess the downside for you guys is that when I'm done, I get to eat and you guys still have to go make your own food. So sorry about that. We could totally do a cook-along if we wanted to. We'll just come up with something that doesn't have a ton of ingredients or equipment, and I can send you guys the recipes in advance and you can tune in and we can go like step by step. This is just fried cheese, but I don't know what it looks like for you guys, but for me, it looks delicious. So be jealous. And if you're not jealous, pretend to be, at least in the chat. And I don't know if you guys can see that, but that is the top of a beautifully grilled cheese. Because again, it's an art form. So almost done. So I have currently almost finished soup, a grilled cheese that looks fantastic, and some nudes in a pasta strainer. So I have one step left. And lucky me, it involves a power tool. So this is the top of an immersion blender. And I always plug it in without the blendy part attached, just in case it's accidentally on. I don't want to accidentally blend myself. That would be unfortunate. But if you've never used an immersion blender before, it works great for what I'm about to use it for, which is to make this soup really, really smooth. But you can also use it as a milk frother. I had to steal this one from my mom. It actually belongs to me, but when I moved out, my mom kept it. And I haven't needed it in like the last 2 years. And then I've been making this tomato soup recipe because we've been making tomato soup at her place whenever I've wanted it. So then I borrowed this. And then I said, if I'm going to be making the soup with the nudes a ton because Indy wants it, then I'm probably going to need one of my own. And my birthday's coming up, and then it's Christmas. My birthday is at the end of October. And then like Christmas a few months later. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll just put an immersion blender on my list. But this was actually a Christmas present from somebody a few years ago. And so it would be a little bit weird. So I was talking to my mom about it, and my stepdad goes, wait, I thought she had an immersion blender. And then my mom had to explain to him that the one that he thinks of as their immersion blender is actually my immersion blender. And they just like never gave it back. Well, they never let me move out with it. But I moved out with like half of her kitchen equipment. Like the skillet that I used for the grilled cheese belonged to my mom originally, and she had like 2, so I just stole the extra one. So it evens out, but I guess now my stepdad thinks that we're terrible people, and so I'm probably getting either this one back or another immersion blender as a gift this Christmas season, which is wonderful. So let me just pop the thing on and turn the setting. So all it does is just that, but it's really, really fun. And it's very easy to use. So all you do, let me move the camera a little bit, is stick it in the soup and then turn it on and stir it around. It kind of makes farting noises. That's how you know it's working. That's how you know most things are working, honestly, when they make farting noises. So if you were not here at the beginning of the stream, my fun fact was that Aunt Fuckhead does not like onion chunks, so I pretty much pulverized the onions. Aunt Fuckhead also does not like tomato chunks in her soup, so this is me pulverizing, well, extra pulverizing tomato chunks, which were pretty pulverized already because this was a can of crushed tomatoes. But now they're extra crushed, which is just the way I like them. And now that they've been crushed, I can add the nudes. Please send more nudes. That would be great. And then stir them in. That can go back in the sink. And then we are done. Which is great because it's dinner time for me. I don't know if it's dinner time for you guys. I know half of you guys are hungry, half of you guys still have to cook. But that is pretty much the end of episode 1. And this is our finished product. So there you go. This is tomato soup with the nudes and grilled cheese. And that is our first episode of Cooking with Aunt Fuckhead. So thank you guys for showing up. We are just about done. We can stick around a few minutes, chat it out. This is still hot, so I'm not eating it just yet. That works though, because that's not as hot. It's been sitting for longer. And it's really terrible, so you guys are definitely not missing out at all. Not worth being here in person. Actually, it's really good. So there we go. So this is not a small pot. I forget how many quarts it is, but it's, for comparison, that is my hand. Hey, it's about a hand tall, so it's probably 4 inches tall. It's the size of the big burner. So that'll definitely be plenty of leftover soup. So that would be tonight for me and for Indy, and then at least another serving for each of us, and then another half serving on top of that. So it makes plenty of soup. It's a full recipe. I'll stick the recipe up in the Discord. And then you guys can make it too. Obviously, the immersion blender is optional. It just means that your soup's going to be a little bit chunkier than mine is, which if you don't have the weird aversion to onion chunks and tomato chunks that I do, you'll be just fine. Actually, I made this like 2 weeks ago, and I didn't blend it because I hadn't stolen the immersion blender back from my mom yet. And it worked out just fine. It wasn't quite my preference, but because of the noodles that I used, which again are these little guys, all of the kind of like chunky pieces that I don't like hid in the noodles, and so it worked out just fine. So I'm sure for people who don't have that issue, it will work out fine for them. But I'll post it. It's a pretty low complication factor recipe. It's literally just a chopped onion, some olive oil, garlic, chicken stock, crushed tomatoes, and thyme, with some heat from the burner, and then whatever you need for grilled cheese and noodles, if that is something that is your preference. If you aren't sure that you would like soup with noodles in it, or tomato soup with noodles in it, you can always just make the noodles separate, and then instead of pouring them back into the soup, which is what I did, you can just keep them separate and spoon a few into your bowl as like a per serving thing. And then if you don't like it, you don't like it. Or you can find a tiny bowl and try like a small serving. And if you like it, make it a big serving. And if you don't like it, then you never have to do it again. And then you have some cooked pasta. So if you wanted to make pasta after that, you could. All right. So I'm thinking that's about it for this stream. I'm going to go eat the rest of this. I'll post the recipe when I can type it out super quick into the Discord in the food channel for the people who want it. I saw a few more suggestions come in after the grilled cheese. 2 of them are for Mexican food type things, so might do that next time. Got to prove to Doug that I can manage to cook what goes in tacos, even though I couldn't cook. Cooking like whole chicken breasts like stresses me out, or like ribs or like pork chops, or like I can't do it. So any kind of ground meat, ground turkey, ground beef, whatever, I can do that. I can do salmon. Otherwise it's way too complicated. So I will not be doing that on stream, but maybe I will make some taco meat just to prove that I can. And that should tick off a few more requests. I'll post the link again to like suggestions, and if you guys think of anything else that you would like. Summers, I know you said you were looking for some recipes, so post some kind of stuff if you're like, hey, that sounds good, I wish I could cook that, and I'll see if I can come up with something for you. And that is pretty much it. So thanks for tuning in, guys. This has been episode 1, tomato soup and grilled cheese of Cooking with Aunt Fuckhead. Thanks very much, and see you guys later.